Shin Chan is back with Shiro and the Coal Town, and I've had a chance to take a sneak peek at this Switch build for this new adventure. Now, is it more of the same? Well, that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, honestly, considering me and the Professor on summer vacation, the last entry, was actually a surprise hit for me. But what I wanted to know was, does it bring something fresh to this quirky world? If you enjoyed the video today, subscribe, it helps out the channel a huge amount. During this preview, I was given access to the first 3 days of gameplay, which sets the stage for Shin Chan's latest adventure. Now, much like summer vacation, we are off to a new town. This time, we're tagging along with Dad on a business trip, and we're bringing the whole family. Now, this town happens to be home to our grandparents too, and our first couple of days they're spent doing the usual, meeting the locals, hanging out with Grandad, and he's kind of teaching us the finer points of bug catching and fishing. But on the third day, things take a mysterious turn. We wake up to find Shiro, our dog, covered in soot. Now naturally, we chase after him, and that's when we stumble upon a mysterious train. After hopping aboard, we are whisked away to Coal Town, a place that's unlike anything from the previous game, with a completely different atmosphere. And from there, the adventure kicks off. We meet a couple of key characters, including an eccentric inventor with a knack for creating gadgets. We're also then asked to save this town and its people, though what that involves and why hasn't actually been explained yet. According to the eShop description, however, we're going to be traveling between two worlds, and I'm kind of looking at that word there, worlds, the village in Akita and Coal Town. Kind of opens up some interesting possibilities for exploration and storytelling. When it comes to my experience and with Shin Chan, it's actually quite limited. Aside from knowing of the character, me and the Professor on summer vacation was my first real exposure. That said, I loved that game. It was a relaxed slice of life experience where daily activities and a kid's imagination pushed that narrative forward. By the end of it, we had dinosaurs roaming the streets, so yeah, it was weird, but in all of the right ways. What really grabbed me about summer vacation was the relaxed gameplay. It was all about simple exploration, day-to-day activities, and unraveling the quirky story at your own pace. And that kind of gameplay transparently doesn't usually hook me, but it did there. And Shiro and the Coal Town seems to carry that same vibe, or at least that's what I can tell from the initial couple of days. You're exploring new locations, you're interacting with the townsfolk, and you're tackling small tasks. Nothing too taxing, just a peaceful, charming experience. This again includes fishing and bug catching, which carries over from summer vacation, and we're going to be delivering our finds to a local woman in this world who's conducting a study on the wildlife. I was hooked on this, going back and forth, watching the book grow as I filled it in with new species, because you can access that book from the main menu. It's very much a big collectible part of this world. It does, however, seem like the mechanics have been expanded though as well. I ran into 3 young boys who have different parts of the town locked off, and to gain access they require items, everything from collecting environmental samples to gathering vegetation. Sure, it's fetch quests, no denying that, but I'm already noticing a vegetable patch outside our house, which looks like it's going to play a part in all of this. There's definitely a little bit more, or at least a sense of more depth to the tasks this time around, and again, I only experienced up to day 3. Now before we do jump into Coal Town then, it is worth mentioning that the home location seems to operate a bit differently. Now here we have a timer in the top right corner that signifies the passing of a day. As you move from screen to screen, the time advances until it's time for dinner with the family and then off to bed. Honestly, these are 2 of my favourite parts of the game. There's not much in the way of interaction, but the dialogue here is packed with so much personality in these moments, and it adds a really charming touch. Now, as for Coal Town, I've only spent 1 day there so far, but something interesting happened. The timer disappears. It's an unusual shift from how the home location operates, and I'm still trying to figure out why. It's definitely got me intrigued, and I want to know, will this be ongoing, or was it simply for this introduction window? Coal Town, though, ups the ante, or at least suggests it would. Our bug catching and fishing take a back seat at this point. Instead, we're meeting a mysterious girl who introduces us to her inventor friend, and our new task is to collect raw materials to help them build various items. They also mention needing our help to save Coal Town, and we get a brief cutscene as well featuring the family who oversees this area. Now their faces are hidden here, which hints they might not be as friendly as they seem, or maybe it's just a misdirection. Only time will tell. Now while I haven't done a whole lot yet as well in this part of the world, I did help build a TV speaker system for the public, though be honest, it looked a little intimidating. I also had to gather food for a guy who refused to let me pass without it. The removal of the timer, however, I want to go back to that. It makes a noticeable difference in how you view the game, or at least it did for me. In Summification, the experience was more of a slice of life adventure with a childlike mystery at its core. But here, the separation between the hometown and Coal Town shifts the dynamic. The hometown elements in these first few days felt like the relaxed slice of life experience I loved from the previous game, but once you transition to Coal Town, it becomes clear that this is where the adventure lies. Now, I'm hoping that as the game progresses, we'll have the freedom to choose how and where we spend our time. You know, whether I want to push the narrative forward in Coal Town or take a more relaxed day fishing and bug catching in the home village. You know, having that flexibility, it'd be a really great way to kind of blend both of these different aspects. And that's what I managed to accomplish in my first 3 days in game. It took about an hour in total, and aside from the evolved mechanics and the new location, I'll say this: the hometown alone feels much larger than the area from the first game. On top of that then, we have Coal Town, which seems sizable as well. I'm excited to dive deeper into the story, catch more bugs, and finish filling out my wildlife book. I'm especially eager to unlock those locations currently off limits. The 3 boys demanding specific items, they have me a little stumped at this point, but I'm hoping to find what they need soon. So yeah, from a gameplay perspective, look, if you were a fan of me and the Professor on Summification, I think you're going to be happy with Shiro and the Coal Town, based at least on these early impressions. The familiar charm is here, with enough new elements to keep things interesting. Visually, much like Summification, the game is stunning. It blends hand-drawn character art with watercolored styled backgrounds. They just bring the world to life in a way that feels very familiar but fresh. Then, thanks to the 2 distinct locations, it really packs a lot of variety into its settings. You know, our home location is all lush fields and kind of peaceful scenic views, but Coal Town shakes things up with bolder, more mechanical elements and a working class population. The presentation is just night and day compared to the serenity of our home. From my perspective, it's kind of clear they've taken what we knew in the original and dialed it up to 11, especially in Coal Town. The town feels almost like a caricature. You know, lines are wavy, pavements are never flat, and houses are crooked and skewed, but that gives it so much personality. I also have to highlight the animations again. Shin Chan's sprint, complete with his signature pose of sticking his butt in the air, is just one of those quirks that makes the game and character so charming. And it's all topped off then with some really fun facial expressions during conversations. They really kind of reinforce the playful tone, making these characters feel just even more alive. On the audio front then, it's early days to make a full judgment, but so far, the soundtrack has been impressive. The piano score is relaxed, it suits the game's laid-back atmosphere perfectly. It's also worth mentioning that the main narrative is fully voice acted in Japanese, with smaller interactions handled through text. Definitely helps with the immersion though when we see these characters actually fully having these conversations. So overall, based on my initial 3 days with Shin Chan, Shiro and the Coal Town, if you enjoyed the first game, this is definitely one to keep on your radar. It builds on the foundation of me and the Professor on Summification, offering a bigger world and more of that kind of quirky, laid-back charm. If this is all new to you, I strongly suggest checking out the first game. I'll link my review down below, and I'd say keep this one in mind as well if you're looking for something relaxed with a great sense of humour. And as I mentioned earlier, slice of life gameplay, not typically my thing, but Shin Chan won me over. I'm hopeful that this will become an ongoing series because I am more than happy to dive into its unique world and storytelling yearly. It's the kind of game that pulls you in with its charm, and I'm excited to see where the fall of release takes us. So will you be checking this one out? Let us know in the comments. Also, if you played Summification, let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below in case they are unsure. You know, as I said, this sort of gameplay, not for everyone, but really let's sell how good it is. With that, like, subscribe for daily Switch content, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.